Hello everyone, welcome back to Etu tutorial. I am Dr. Etu, and in today's video, we're going to learn how to create one of the simplest yet most powerful visualizations in Tableau, the Sparkline, along with a KPI indicator. If you've ever seen those tiny line charts that show a quick trend, like stock prices going up or down, that's exactly what we'll be building today. And by the end of this tutorial, you'll be able to add KPIs to make your dashboard instantly more insightful. Now, here's what we'll cover. I'll quickly explain what a spark line and a KPI are. Then we'll look at a simple example using the S&P 500 stock prices. Finally, we'll hop into Tableau and build it step by step together. So, what exactly is a sparkline? A sparkline is a miniature line chart that shows a trend over time. No axis, no labels, just a quick snapshot of movement. Think of it as a visual heartbeat of your data. Having known what a sparkline is, the second thing I wanted to talk about is a KPI, or key performance indicator. It helps you instantly see how well something is performing. For example, whether the stock prices have gone up or down compared to the previous day, week, month, or year. Now, let's take a look at the S&P 500. So I'm going to share my screen. All right. So here you can basically see a spark line, and you can see how the prices go up and down over a period of time. And then on the other side of it, you can see the KPI telling us how much this S&P 500 closed, right? So this data is very recent from October 3rd. And as at the closing of October 3rd, which is a Friday, the price was at $6,715.79. The color helps us to know if it was a positive change or a negative change. And then we get a quick story or insight of who's winning and who's lagging behind. Now, let's jump right into Tableau and start building this together. So I already have my Tableau opened up. So the next thing I'm going to do is to import the data into Tableau. Now I got this data from the S&P Global website, so it's very free. You can go there and download this data as well. Let me just show you how the data looks like in Excel before I upload it into Tableau. So I will minimize this. All right, so here is the data, right? S&P Dow Jones indices. You can see how it's arranged. This is actually where our header, this is basically our header, but all of this here from rows 1 to 6 is irrelevant. We don't need it. So I'll show you how to clean it in Tableau using the data interpreter. Also, when you go all the way to the end of this data set, we have some disclaimers and disclosures and all of those different things. We don't need it as well. So we need to remove all of this when we import the data into Tableau. So let's go ahead and import the data and start creating our chart. Now for the data, I will have the link to help you download it in the YouTube video description. So please go over to the description part of this video and download the data and follow along. All right, so the first thing we want to do after importing the data into Tableau is to clean it, and we can do that using the data interpreter. So all you need to do is just click this, and Tableau will automatically try to clean the data for you and have the data start from the proper headers, right? So you can see here it's saying null, and it's not giving us the proper header here. So if I say click use the data interpreter, so now we have our headers mirroring the headers we have here in row 7. So what I like to do is just rename this, right? So click here, rename, I'll just say date, and then I'll rename this other one, and I'll just say S&P 500, right? So I kind of prefer it this way, nice and simple for us. So let's go over to sheet one and basically start off the analysis. Sorry, start off creating our um, dashboard. Okay, so the first thing we want to create here is the KPI, right? So we're going to have to create a couple of calculated fields to help us achieve different functions, right? Which we would then put into our um, into the worksheet for our KPI. So the first thing we would create, or the first calculated field we will create, is called current day. So basically what this does for us is that it extracts the current day value from our date, right? So I'm just going to say CD, I'll call it current day, right? That's basically what it is. So pistachio, max, and we would use the date trunk, day, and then date, right? So we're basically trying to extract the day value from the date. That's what this code is doing. So close it with a curly bracket. So whenever you type a code, an equation, whatever is here, if it's not complete, it will not show you that the calculation is valid. But once it's complete, it will show that the calculation is valid. So apply, okay. So we're going to create another one called previous day. So what this is doing is that it is extracting the previous day value, right? But we would use a subtraction approach in order to do that, right? So let's say if today was day 22, if we wanted to get yesterday, we just subtract 1, so that gives us day 21, right? So that same logic is what we would apply here. So we'd use the date add um, function. So we say day uh, subtract 1, then the pistachio, then the max, then we have our date trunk, the date. So, okay, and curly bracket here. All right, so that's that. We should be fine. So apply. Okay, all right. So we've created the current day as well as the previous day. Now the next thing we're going to do is to create a Boolean, which is true or false. And what this does is that it would look at every single row and make sure that we actually have the current date in that row, right? So we're going to call it is current date, right? Is CD. And remember, we already created a calculated field called current day. And then we'll just use the date trunk. This would be day. And then date. Right, so apply. Okay. Then the next one would be is previous day. So I should have put, so it's previous day. ED is equal to, so the trunk, the, so that's it there. I'm just going to come back to this one and edit it just by putting a comment. Is current day. Right. So we have that. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to try to get the current day stock price, right? So we've taken care of the extracting the day itself from the date. Now we're going to try to extract the current day stock price. So for each day, what was the stock price, right? So we use CD stock price. So We want this as an integer. Then we bring in the is current day and multiply that by the S&P 500 variable. All right, so let me just put this here. Do that again. So previous day stock price. So integer. So this one is PD. Closing that. Multiply that. Okay, 500. All right, so that's it. Okay, so now that we have the current and previous day stock price, this would help us with the next calculated field where we try to calculate the day over day difference, right? So we want to see what the difference is between the current day stock price and yesterday's stock price, or should I say today's stock price and yesterday's stock price. So create another calculated field. We'll call it day over day difference, and this would be so we sum the current day stock price subtracted from the previous day stock price. All right, so okay. Then the next thing we do is to get the percentage, right? What's the percentage difference? So day over day difference percentage. So here we're trying to create that calculated field to get the daily percentage change, right? Before I go into, put in the equation for this, we just want to make sure that when we use the sum, that sum is in the denominator, or else you get an error, right? So let me show you what I mean. So we have to call the day over day difference divided by sum of the previous day stock price, right? So the sum should always be in the denominator. If you put it in the numerator, right, you get an error that says cannot mix aggregate and non-aggregate functions, right? So please be aware of that when you try to calculate the percentage. So apply. Okay, now the next thing I like to do is I like to format this so that our values are between two decimal places, right? So that's basically what you would do there. Then just click OK. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I use color to distinguish when the stock price is positive and when it's a negative change. So typically what we could just do is to duplicate this. So just click duplicate and then edit it. Call this one positive, and we would have like an if-else function so that whenever it is a positive change, we would have that positive symbol show, and then we'll do the color coding later on. So we'll just say captures all the positive percentage change in the day-to-day stock price. So if uh, if that percentage change is greater than 0, right? Um, then this else is 0 and then n. So that's our if else function, right? Saying that if we calculate the percentage change, if it's greater than 0, then you know, you can do this. You can show the results, right? Else it's going to be a 0 and then just end. So apply, okay. Then we'll duplicate this again, and this would be for the negative part. All right, so that captures all the negative percentage change and all the negative values. So I would change this here to a less than, right? And then this here would just be a null. So the reason I'm deciding to show a null here is so that when we put the KPI, right, if it's a negative, if we don't have any negative change at all, that place would just be empty, right? And only the positive would show if we have a positive. If we happen to have a positive, right, and so if we don't happen to have a positive, but we have a negative, then the positive will basically just be empty. I think you'd see that later on. So apply. Okay. All right, so that's all we have to do. So the next thing is we need to drag all of these variables into our text because we're trying to create the KPI. So let's start with the stock price, put it there, and then we need this one, put it there. Previous day stock price, we'll put it there. Then we need the positive and the negative. Okay, so that's all we need. Okay, so click on the text, and then let's open this up. I will say, I want to make this one interesting. So S&P 500, right? So I want the current day stock price, right? I want that to be top. And then I'll have this. And maybe I should show only the positive and negative. Yeah, I've shown it positive and negative. So I'll take this and I'll put it here and take this up there. So maybe we could just delete this one. We don't really need it. Then I'm just going to say 1D. Okay. So I'll make this 15. Right. Oh yeah, 15 should be fine. Then I'm just going to make everything here 10. Probably that's to be 11. Right, is it too big? 15. No, let's make it 10. Let's make it 10. Right. Let's make this. I'm gonna make this one maybe maybe yeah, that color, right? And then this one, the positive, we're going to make it a green, and then the negative will be a red. Then the 1 day, I would use the same color I used here. Yes, all right. So preview, yeah, this is basically how it would look like. Right, 1 day. All right, sweet. So the other thing I'm gonna do is I would put the USD here because it's that's the United States dollars. Yep, that's how it would look like. So let's put this one as bold. So apply and okay. All right, so this is basically how it would look like. Okay, I need to give a space between the percentage and the one. Just a little bit space there. Fine. Okay, all right. Maybe another space between the slash. Okay, I think this is looking good. All right, so the other thing I'll do is just try to center all of this, right? Then go to the tooltip and turn this off so that when you hover on it, it doesn't show you the tooltip, right? So we like it this way. Okay, so we have officially created the KPI, right? And it's looking good and I like it, right? So the next thing we would do is um, to go ahead and create our chart, right? Which would have the sparkline. So we'll do that in another sheet, but let's name this one as KPI. So we'll go to the second sheet and I'll name this one as Sparkline, right? That's basically what we're going to create. So we're basically trying to create something like this, right? So the first thing we need to do is drag the date to the columns, and then we need to change this to a continuous date. So change that to a day, right? And this will change the PO from a blue to a green, which shows that it's continuous. Right, so the next thing we need to do is to drag the stock price and put it in the rows, right? Oh no, I think I dragged the wrong one. S&P 500, sorry. Yeah, drag the S&P 500 and put it in the rows. So this is basically what you get. So we're going to format it so that we have the dollar sign showing and we have it in two decimal places. So right click and go to format, then go to currency custom, make it two decimal places. The dollar sign is there already, so you don't have to worry, right? So now if you hover around it, right, you can see all of that there. Now go over to the tooltip and we'll just remove all of this. We only want just to, so if you preview, we only want it to look like this. So click OK. Now, the next thing I will do is to remove the the x-axis completely. Remember, a sparkline, there's no x and y-axis. So right click on the x-axis and just untick show header, right? Now we'll do the same thing for the y-axis, but before we do that, we don't want all of this white space down here, right? We want to bring, like, we we want to really be able to zoom into that, um, into our line over here. So I'd right click, edit axis. I would do custom and I will make it to, oh, hold on, let's try this. We could say, yeah, we could just take out the include zero, right? Um, since we're not really going to be showing the y-axis, we don't need to include zero, right? Typically, if you're doing any type of line chart, you need to start from zero. But because we're not showing the the y-axis and a spark line, we don't really need to start from zero, so we can take that out. So just untick the include zero, then close that, and then remove the header. So you can basically see how this is. So go over to color. I'm going to make it a green, right? I'll go with this green. So we'll make it a green. I would increase the size a little bit. Is it too much? Yeah. Okay, just kind of before the midway point of the 50%. Right, so I like it like this. And then the next thing we'll do is format it to remove the grid lines, right? So click on rows, turn off the grid lines, remove the axis rulers, do the same things for column, turn that off, remove the axis rulers. So we just want like a plain, plain background. No axis lines, no rule, no grid lines whatsoever, right? So all of that is all taken away. No borders as well, right? You can see there's no borders whatsoever. It's just a very clean um, chart. So we've successfully created the Sparkline. Now what we need to do is create a dashboard that brings together the KPI and the Sparkline together, right? So go over to your dashboard, right? So you have it, just that small plus button next to the worksheet. Click on it, it opens up the dashboard. Now, whenever you create a dashboard, the first thing you want to do is to, to set the size of the dashboard. So go to fix size, right? Keep it at custom. And then let's make this, I'd say 550 by 420. We just need like a very small size dashboard. We don't need something too big. I think maybe I could even reduce the width a little bit to 450. Yeah, maybe 450 should be fine. Now, we're going to take two vertical containers and drop it in here. The first vertical container would house the KPI sheet. The second vertical container would house the Sparkline. So let's go with the first one, drop it in there, take the second one, oops. So take the second one and drop it in there. So now I can grab my KPI and drop it in there, right? So you can see what happens immediately. Then I can drag the Sparkline and drop it there as well. Now what I want you to do is click on the first one, right click, turn off the title. So it's going to remove that KPI from there. We don't need it. Then put the fit as entire view so that it can center it and put it in the middle. And maybe we could just adjust this a little bit. It's looking nice, right? Then click on the second chart, do the same thing, remove the title and make the fit. Okay, the fit is already entire view, so you don't have to worry about that. So this is kind of like how our Sparkline is looking for the S&P 500. So you can see, it's at what, $6,715 in terms of the closing price for October, as at October 3rd, 2025, right? So we can see that there. Now, the last thing I will do is that I'm just going to put a text there so we can include the citation. So our data source, remember I told you we got this from the S&P Global. So S&P, please make sure anytime you create a chart, you always cite the data source or, cite whoever gave you inspiration for this chart. And so I'm going to put this as this, and then I want it to be there, but then I don't want it to kind of stand out. So that's why I'm putting the color, it's a very faint gray. So click OK, and then we'll adjust this so it's kind of like, so you can see it there. All right, so this is basically our Sparkline, right, for the S&P 500. And please remember to save this, right? So sign into your Tableau public, and then put your email and password, and make sure you save this to your Tableau public profile. Thank you for watching all the way to the end of this video. I hope this has been helpful to teach you how to create a Sparkline, and hopefully you can use this to create more Sparklines and continue your learning in Tableau. See you in the next video.